What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 10-7 MMA show. We are back on a historic day. By the way, Justin's going to jump back on in 1 second. We are back on a historic day. If you guys don't know, I don't know what to tell you, but you guys do know. I think Jon Jones has officially retired. Now, I did make a video right about this right on Sunday, yesterday, but I think some extra tidbits of information that maybe you didn't get from initial reports about all of the craziness that is surrounding the story. But man, oh man, it is big news. Tom Aspinall, congratulations. He is the heavyweight champ of the UFC. What a legend. I'm so glad that we get to move on. I'm sure Justin's going to be ecstatic as well. And we're going to talk about that in a second. Big Onk MMA says, Jones finally done, or are you trying to make a return to fight Tom in Madison Square Garden? Oh, I don't think that's going to happen in MSG. But a lot of people are saying, let me mute Justin. A lot of people are saying that they believe that Jon Jones isn't 100% retired. So there is a chance that, yes, he may come back and return at some point. There's so many interesting things to talk about today regarding Jon Jones and this retirement and what everybody has to say. But yeah, I don't think he's going to be coming back to fight Tom in MSG. And I think there's a number of reasons why. I don't think it's that he is necessarily avoiding Tom per se. At least I don't want to believe that. We're going to talk about this more in detail, going through a couple other messages. Tehran says, what's up, boys? What's up? And Western Mass also says, what's up? What's up? Not much, just back in the mix. Justin James, we have huge news today, and we're going to jump right in the mix. We got so much fun stuff.
If it's about Jon Jones, you can talk about it. I don't give a fuck.
Okay, fine. Well, I guess I'll talk about it then. But here's the thing. I
just made a video about it, actually. Did you see that? I just made a video like 10 minutes ago.
I haven't saw it yet. Okay, we're going to check that out. We'll post it for you guys later today. But we got to get into that. I mean, this is the biggest story. By the way, I definitely cannot wait to talk about Rafael Fiziev, because if you guys missed that fight somehow, holy smokes, what a clinic Fiziev put on against Bahamondes, who is 6'3". That was such a crazy striking battle. And man, it was like, anyways, we're going to talk about that later. But let's get into the mix. Let's get into this craziness that is the Jon Jones retirement talk. And I'll mostly talk about it, Justin. You chime in.
I'm just joking. I can talk about it. I'm just fucking around.
Yeah, so this is crazy. It came down, and what I've been saying this whole time, we even talked about it with Jesse on Fire via text. What I've been saying the whole time is I thought that Jon Jones was just making a play to negotiate. Now, as more news is coming out today from the Ariel Helwani show, from lots of other folks, basically here's what it was. They got Jon Jones that $30 million figure with the help of Sheikh Al Turki. Okay, so he came to the table with that 30 million figure, somewhere around there. With the help of Turki Al Sheikh, they got to the 30 million figure. Jon Jones agreed to the fight. This is the timeline. Then, several days later, whether it was 1, 2, or 3, I'm not exactly sure, but it was several days later. Then Jon Jones called again and said, "Nah, I changed my mind. I don't want to take the fight." I thought this entire time that it was a play for more money. I never heard Ariel say that Jon Jones said, "I don't want it unless it's this amount more." So I don't know if that's actually true, but that was my thought, because otherwise I'm like, why did they not strip him? But now there is another option that I do have to consider, which is what these guys are saying is it's kind of similar to when Khabib retired after beating Justin Gaethje. He retired, and for a long time, Dana White didn't strip him. It lasted for 4 months. He stayed on his champ, and they kept trying to convince him over and over to take the fight. So maybe it was just that. Maybe it wasn't even Jon Jones overtly trying to negotiate. Maybe he had just changed his mind, but the UFC felt like they were going to get him. Now, the difference is that Khabib said over and over, "I'm done, I'm done, I'm done." Jon Jones wouldn't say that. He wouldn't go that far. He even talked about other potential opponents. So that's why I thought he was maybe toying with the UFC and just trying to use this as an amazing play to get even more money, maybe 33 million, maybe 35 million, something along those lines. Why not squeeze out every last dollar and then get the victory, walk off into the sunset? I don't know if that's true. Maybe he was just pushing back, but the whole thing is bizarre. But finally, we have a resolution. Now, Justin, do you know about the criminal complaint? I think we were talking about it a little bit via text.
Yeah, I know a little bit about it. I was looking for stuff this morning, just scrolling through Instagram, because that's my #1 news feed for MMA is Instagram. Yeah, but I do have two interesting takes, unlikely takes, but interesting takes on this. Okay, I was going to make a video about it, but they're a little out there. But I think if we open up our mind and we think about it, it's very possible. All right. So my first take on it is there's this old saying, it's you die twice. You die when you die, and then you die the last time somebody ever says your name. And it's like, Is John Jones kind of going that way? Because right now he's talking about every time he answers his phone, he's making $100,000. Well, guess what? In time, people are going to forget about him. When we look at like Randy Couture, 3 or 4 time UFC champion, the 205 division, the heavyweight division. I worked at his gym since 2009. People come into Extreme Couture and they ask me, who is Randy Couture? Well, what do you mean? One of the greatest fighters of all time. A 3-time UFC, 4-time World Series champion. His name is on the building and you don't know who he is? Like that blows my mind. But with John Jones always keeping in the mix, he's not hitting that second part of death. There's not that last time somebody mentions his name, because John Jones is talked about a lot more than Randy Couture. And and although he hasn't not fought as long as Randy, but still it's been so long. Now my second take on it is, and I've seen this stat on Instagram a bunch of times, is these smaller MMA shows, and some bigger ones, but a lot of smaller ones are posting like, oh, John Jones has been the champ for 2,400 days. He's the longest reigning champion. So the longer he can hold on to this fictional belt that he holds, because he's not the champion in my eyes. He was the champion, but he hasn't been the champion for a long time. I don't think his Stipe fight was impressive. I don't think his Ciryl Gane fight was impressive. Stipe looked old. He looked washed up. You heard it in his post-fight interview. He didn't want to be there. He wasn't fighting a fighter. He was fighting a guy that was there for a paycheck. And then afterwards on the mic, he's like, I'm done. I'm never doing this again. The preparation looked terrible. He looked terrible. And I know you've said, oh, he looked pretty good. And he looked terrible. He looked fucking terrible. He didn't look good against Francis Ngannou either. I think he was checked out in the Francis Ngannou fight after getting knocked out in the first round. Now he just came back here. So his last 2 wins, okay, yeah, he won, but it wasn't impressive by any means, and as long as he can keep his belt around his waist even without fighting, the longer his stock goes up as the longest reigning UFC champion of all time, whether he fights or not. And I know these are out there takes. These are like, that's pretty out there. But think about it. I mean, he's so smart, because he said, I saw it again, and I said this already. He said every time he answers his phone, he gets paid $100,000. Or every time he gets out of bed. Every time he gets walks out of the house, he gets paid.
Or does an interview or something like that.
But guess what? When he's not the champion anymore, he loses that stock. And guess what? In 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it's not going up anymore.
Yeah. That's why people think he's going to come back and eventually fight. People think that. Actually, I heard somebody say this just the other day. They said that, and you can chime in on this. The problem with fighters and retirement is that it's not like a team sport where a team has to purchase you or, get a contract with you to bring you back in, or they need you in a particular spot. Here, it's like if they believe there's a marketing capability, a marketing opportunity to get you a fight with a particular guy, all you got to do is say yes. And you come back in for somebody like him, 5 million, 10 million, 15 million. It's hard to say no to a quick payday when prior to that, you're basically out and your earning potential has gone to, not to zero, but it's gone drastically down. Sure. So there's one of the reasons why people think he's going to eventually come back at some point. But no, I get what you're saying in terms of wanting to hold on to it. I've heard people talk about that Stipe fight recently and say, actually, if you watch it back, Stipe was actually landing on John Jones. But I get it. You've got a more expert eye than I do. If Stipe
I'm not even talking about his technique, though. I'm not talking about his striking. I'm not talking. It just looked at his demeanor. He just didn't look like he wanted to be there at all. And that's the thing. That's a real thing. Like he was fighting. I think Stipe's goal was, well, if I can go to decision with him, that's a moral victory in my book, considering at where I'm at in my career. He wasn't trying. It didn't look to me like he was trying to win. He looked to me like he was trying not to lose.
I get that. And you're probably right, because you have an eye for that. I definitely do not. So that's fair. Now, this all occurs on the heels. And this is the part that's blowing my mind. This is the part that I think at least initially, not a lot of people were talking about it. Now today, Ariel Helwani addressed it, but he also is claiming pretty confidently that this has nothing to do with John Jones not taking this fight, or not John Jones basically vacating the title or retiring or whatever. But basically, let me give you guys the lowdown. And you may have seen my video where I go through it in much more detail, but here's the gist of it. Back in February, there was an incident where John Jones took shrooms, allegedly based on the testimony of this woman, and drank alcohol at his house with some woman. We don't know who she is or what her relationship, but it sounds something untoward a bit. And then they proceed to drive. According to her, they're driving. They get into an accident. This has happened before. This is not the first time. and John Jones allegedly was driving. After they got into the crash, he took off. She stayed in the car. When the police came, she had no pants on, no underwear, which is insane. I don't know what was going on.
You have time before the police get there. What?
Yeah, it's so crazy. So then now he bounces. She tells him what happened. They call him. And then on top of that, John Jones threatens the police officers with lethal force, saying he knows people and he can get basically lethal force evoked against them or whatever. It's just the whole thing is crazy. Then he proceeds to call her phone 13 times throughout the night. Now, that's the old part of the story that I already talked about on Saturday. Now, the only reason why I thought it may have contributed is because even though this to his retirement is because even though this happened back in February, I believe the criminal complaint was filed recently. That being said, Ariel Helwani, the best in the game in terms of journalism, feels confident that this had nothing to do with his retirement. In fact, they said that the UFC, at least on the UFC's end, the UFC found out about this criminal complaint after the retirement announcement. So take that for what it's worth. But what is new is that John Jones' attorney has released this lengthy statement about everything that went down. So I'm going to read this out to you guys. I actually haven't read this article in detail. We're going to go through and we'll just talk about it briefly. And we're not going to spend a crazy amount of time on this beyond this story and this little statement. But it says, in the wake of the latest criminal allegations against Jones, his attorney said his oft-embattled and oft-legally embroiled client has been falsely accused and is being targeted by police. And this whole explanation makes no sense, by the way. So Saturday, CEO Dana White called him to announce his retirement the night before. Jones posted on social media to say, yep, I'm walking away from the sport. But not long after that, there was a story that broke in the Albuquerque Journal about the legal trouble. Okay, now we're going to get to this part from his attorney. As John's lawyer, I'm stunned by the Albuquerque Police Department's decision to charge him in this new case. It's a misdemeanor charge, by the way. I think it's like leaving the scene of an accident. It's a pretty small slap on the wrist compared to what he would have potentially faced if this is true, right? For another DUI. He has had many DUIs. In the thousands of cases I've handled in my career, I've never seen a case as strange and unwarranted as this one. John was not driving that night. That's what he says. He wasn't in the car. It appears that an intoxicated woman used a false allegation against John to avoid being arrested for DWI, and the police fell for it. Based on the criminal complaint, it looks like they went so far as to seek a warrant for John's cell phone records while conducting a misdemeanor traffic investigation. I've never heard of such a thing. It is truly unbelievable that the police would waste this amount of time of resources on such a case. The only thing I can think of is that the police were targeting John for improper purposes. So this is his statement. The thing that doesn't add up in this whole ordeal, and at least in regards to what his attorney is saying, is John, when they subpoenaed his phone or they got his phone, they saw that he had called the woman 13 times from that night all the way till 11:30 in the morning. Why? Why is he calling her all these times if he had no involvement? He had nothing to do with this. And why is he threatening the police officer over the phone? John Jones later said, well, I thought it was like not a legitimate call or something like that. But why are you on the phone threatening lethal force? This whole thing is bizarre.
Threatening with lethal force?
Yeah, he was threatening the officers wasted. He was like wasted on the phone saying that he was going to kill them or somehow.
Now devil's advocate. I'm not saying what you're saying is false or not. But what if she left his house drunk?
No, that's I think what his attorney is saying.
And that's kind of what I'm trying to feed off. Like I'm not being a guy that's been accused of things in the past, things I haven't done.
True,
I'm sure you have too.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm not going to say that's the case, but what if it's a 5% chance? Should we look into it a little bit?
Yeah, it should. It will. Yeah, I think it will be looked into. I'm just saying, as the facts have been presented to me thus far via the media and via what other people are talking about, the narrative that his attorney is putting out there doesn't seem to add up. That being said, time will tell. The investigation will, I'm sure, unearth more, and we shall see. All right, enough about all this. Point being, John Jones is officially retired from the sport. You hear Ilia Topuria. If you check out Ariel's show today, I think he did a great job talking about John Jones after Ariel just like Ariel hates John Jones. I think he just goes off on how he walked away, how Tom Aspinall basically scared him out of the sport and all this stuff. Listen to Ilia Topuria, because I think from a fighter, it makes a lot more sense. And I'm more inclined to believe a fighter's perspective than journalist perspective. But he basically says, no, John Jones isn't afraid of anybody. He didn't want to take the fight for a number of reasons. He doesn't need to take the fight. Kind of what I've been saying for quite some time. But yes, whatever these legal things that are going on, whatever the circumstances, he didn't want the fight. I think he's earned it at this point to walk away. Why he didn't get stripped or vacate sooner, I don't know, because he won that fight in November, and I guess he turned down the fight months ago. But that's above my pay grade. That's between the UFC and Jon Jones and everybody else. That being said, we finally have closure, and I think that's what me and Justin have been wanting for so long. That's what's been so annoying, is we've been stuck in limbo. We have closure. Tom Aspinall is now the champ. Here we go. By the way, Western says, I hate you guys. As you talk about the cops, I don't know what this is. But now we have Tom Aspinall. Welcome as the UFC undisputed heavyweight champ. I'm sure he's over the moon. And this begs the question, Tom Aspinall versus Ciryl Gane next. But there's something about this that I want to go back in terms of talking about Jon Jones and his legacy in a moment. But first, Justin, let's talk about Tom Aspinall. I know you're not a fan of Ciryl Gane after his performance against Jon Jones. However, I did think he looked very good against Volkov. Even though a lot of people thought he lost, I think he looked great. I think he's awesome. And I think he's dangerous. What's your takeaway? What's your thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, Ciryl Gane is dangerous on his feet. He's very powerful. But, I mean, here's the thing. It's a lose-lose for Tom Aspinall because Jon Jones finished him in the first round by submission. If Tom Aspinall goes in there and wins the decision, everyone's going to come out and say, see, Jon Jones was so much better than Tom, so much better than Tom. Exactly. I don't think Ciryl Gane is that good, but, you still got to catch guys in the UFC. To finish guys in the UFC is not an easy task, whether you're a featherweight or a lightweight or a heavyweight. Sometimes you just get lucky. There's times where I didn't even train for a fight, and I would finish guys in the first round because I'd catch them in a guillotine or I'd knock them out early, and I wasn't even in shape for that. So, flukes do happen in fighting. Unfortunately, at the highest level, it's really hard to finish guys, man. And unless Tom gets lucky, or he could have a dominant win, but even if it's a dominant win for 5 rounds, is he going to get the credibility that he didn't finish him like Jon Jones did? That's why I don't like the matchup.
Now, speaking of what you mentioned, going back to the legacy of Jon Jones, Ariel, once again, just like really hating Jon Jones, in my opinion, is saying that he believes that Jon Jones' legacy is forever tarnished by not fighting Tom Aspinall. I disagree. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I actually disagree. And I think long-term people are going to mostly forget about this, but they will especially forget about this entire chapter if one thing happens in particular, and that's Ciryl Gane. Not only, it's not about Tom even beating. If Ciryl Gane beats Tom Aspinall, this will be crazy. Jon Jones will come out gloating for sure and say, see, I told you guys. Everybody's making a big deal. I told you, the guy that I beat in 1 round just beat this guy who said everybody said I was afraid of. And I think that's what will be the outcome. And this will be a complete blip. But even if Tom wins, he's got to win multiple fights. And they have multiple title defenses and really steamroll the entire division for people to even say that this is any sort of a stain on Jon Jones' legacy. So, Justin, let me ask you this. Do you think him not fighting Tom Aspinall and Tom Aspinall moving on, let's not even talk about the outcome of what happened in this fight, but do you think it's going to affect his legacy, Jon Jones' legacy long term?
I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is because there's always going to be another Tom Aspinall. If Jon goes up there and beats Tom, or, no, you got this guy. And, if you keep fighting in MMA, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're Jon Jones, Habib, if he had 5, I'd be willing to bet Habib couldn't win 5 more fights in a row because it's just a dangerous game, man. And staying at the top for so long it's so hard. It's one of the hardest things to do. It's, we talk about it all the time. That's why when these guys go on these long win streaks, like Anderson Silva, 16 wins, George St. Pierre, I think he had 15 wins in a row. It's incredible. And Jon has had a career like that. But again, he knows, he's smart. He's not an idiot. He knows if he sticks around long enough, there is going to be that young guy that knocks him off. It would have happened to Khabib. It would have happened to, George St. Pierre. There's a time to retire. You know what I mean? And when you're and you look at Anderson Silva, man, he was on that 16-fight win streak. And then I think he had one notice. It was a no contest against Nick Diaz. And then did he win another fight after that?
I'm not sure.
Look it up. I mean, he tarnished everything. Nobody looks at him as one of the greatest of all time because of how many losses he took late in his career. Remember when he knocked out Michael Bisping? Michael Bisping has collapsed. He walks, turns away, and then they had to continue to fight him. Michael Bisping ends up beating him.
Yeah, I remember that.
He
beat Derek Brunson. He beat Derek Brunson in 2017.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one win since he broke his leg, dude. All these new fans don't see him as the greatest of all time because of that.
Yeah.
Anyways.
It was Stephan Bonner was his last win. Then he lost to Chris Weidman twice. Then the no contest to Nick Diaz, lost 2 more. Michael Bisping and Daniel Cormier, both tough. I mean, yeah, he should have beat Michael Bisping.
And he fought Daniel Cormier on short notice, and it was fucking awesome.
Yeah, that went to a 3-round decision. That's crazy. And then he beat Derek Brunson. Then he lost 3 in a row. I remember when he fought Izzy. That was crazy because Izzy had so much respect for him. But anyways, no, it's a good point. It's a point well taken. I 100% agree with you. And again, I think this is another instance. Ariel's just saying nobody on the show agreed with him. Ariel's just saying that it would tarnish his legacy. I think because he just doesn't like John Jones. John Jones won't go on a show. You know, it's one of those biases that he has. It is what it is. But anyways, I completely agree. But I definitely think, in fact, I almost think if Tom Aspinall goes out and loses to Ciryl Gane, which he 100% could, you just said how difficult it is to win consecutively all these fights in a row. And at the heavyweight division, it's even harder. And Ciryl Gane's an amazing striker. I think if Tom Aspinall goes out there and loses to Ciryl Gane, this will be in some sick way. This will actually bolster the reputation of John Jones. This will actually increase his legacy because he's going to come out gloating like a madman. Everybody said I ducked. The guy beaten in less than half a round just smoked the supposed guy that was the biggest threat to me. So now you guys got to all check yourselves. And nobody even want John Jones to fight Tom Aspinall after that. I mean, that would be like the biggest 4D checkmate move of all time if this actually goes down. And it could, but we shall see. The more I think about it, this Tom Aspinall fight, people who are poo-pooing on it in terms of Tom Aspinall for Ciryl Gane is maybe like not an exciting matchup because of Ciryl Gane's last performance. It's actually a lot on the line for John Jones and for Tom Aspinall in a weird way. So it's a very, very, very big heavyweight fight. Johnny Monday is back in the mix. He says, Teron Brown, what's up? I'm excited to hear the Charles Topuria take. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a moment. We got a couple other comments I'm going to highlight. The second biggest fight you can make for Tom now is Francis since Jones retired.
Watch my video. I just made a video 15 minutes ago about it.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, I mean, Dana White was asked about Francis over the weekend, and again, he comes out basically saying he takes it as a chance to insult Francis one more time. He's like, hey, Francis says a lot of things, but he doesn't mean them or something like that. So he's like, you can't really trust anything that Francis says. It wasn't even Francis that said that he wanted to return. It was Eric Nixick. But anyways, couple more. Western says, truthfully, Francis is the lineal. Yeah, he is the lineal UFC heavyweight champ. Justin, agree or disagree? As much as people were going crazy over Tom Aspinall versus John Jones, the biggest fight wouldn't have been that. The biggest fight would have been John Jones versus Francis. True or false?
I agree. I think Francis is more popular. When you look at intimidation, like Francis is the epitome of an intimidating human being. Like when our lockers are next to each other, when we stand next to each other, like I look over this motherfucker. This is a big motherfucker. You know what I'm saying? Like this is not Tom Aspinall. Yeah, he's a big guy, but like if I saw him at a bar, I wouldn't be like, that's the toughest man in the whole world. You see Francis Ngannou in a bar, you're like, that guy is scary big. Like, you know what I mean? So I think he has more popularity. People look at that, his physical attributes, and are just see him as the most intimidating and scary guy in the world. You don't hear people talking about Tom Aspinall being the baddest man on the planet. You hear people talking about, well, not too many people anyways. If you had to say who's a better man on the planet, Francis Ngannou or Tom Aspinall, I'm going with Francis, not only because he's the former UFC champion, but you look at the guy and he looks like a motherfucking badass, you know?
100%. That would have been amazing. Unfortunately, it looks like that will probably never happen. Although I don't know, John Jones is retired. I don't know what his contract is. Is he allowed to fight in other organizations? But I have
a non-compete. You think? I mean, being a lawyer, do you think he has a non-compete?
Well, okay. So first of all, non-competes are really are not enforceable in a. It's weird with the UFC. It's like they're locked in and they're not. I don't know how it is. It's like some sort of exclusivity thing. I think until it expires, you're only allowed to fight for that organization. Non-competes, for example, are like famously unenforceable typically in the state of California. So I don't know exactly how it works, but it's like while you're under contract with the UFC, you're not allowed to fight for any other organization. So what is it for John Jones? Does he have one fight left? And if he doesn't take that fight, he can't walk away. Is there something more than that? Is he now retired and able to do that? Does he have a sunset clause? I don't know. So probably if and when they ever did fight, it would probably be years down the line when their names aren't as big. And that's to the UFC's advantage, because imagine if the two of them fought in the PFL, everybody would be watching that fight and buying that fight. It'd be too competitive with the UFC in general. So I think they've definitely found a way to block it. Okay. Anywho, Let's move along. I know you guys want us to talk about Ilia. We're going to get to that shortly. We're going to talk about that matchup, but we got to talk about what happened this weekend. And man, because of the Jon Jones announcement, it's really unfair, but Khalil Rountree just totally got swept under the rug. Nobody's talking about Khalil's victory against Jamal Hill. Khalil put on a clinic, a Muay Thai clinic. And man, those leg kicks, he just destroyed and chewed up Jamal Hill's legs. And the funny thing is, it wasn't even in his game plan. If you listen to Khalil's interview, he said, I was ready for everything. I was prepared for whatever. But Jamal is actually the one that first threw some leg kicks, and he just picked up on that and started firing back. And dude, he chopped that down like a tree with an axe, and to the point where it looked like Jamal Hill had nothing to offer. Justin, I'd love to hear your season take, because you know Jamal. Obviously, you can watch the sport and understand it much better than me as a professional fighter, as being in there 79 times yourself. What are your thoughts on this fight and Khalil's dominant victory?
Honestly, I'm not surprised by it, man. We talked about the fight, but before the fight happened, Khalil looks like a different fighter every time he fights. I know he went out to Thailand and stayed out there for a long time and worked on his traditional Muay Thai. The guy has tree trunks for legs, and he cuts other guys' legs like Jamal Hill down like a tree with how much power he has on his base. Jamal Hill, before the fight came out, and said, "Oh, I'm changing up the game plan. This isn't a boxing match. This isn't a kickboxing match. This is an MMA fight." I believe he had 0 takedown attempts. What are you talking about, dude? Like, you didn't change up anything. You have to negate Khalil's kickboxing, because Jamal is a great striker. Don't get me wrong. He's very precise. He's very accurate. He has a lot of power. But Khalil's tech, he just outclassed him. And, when they came out and they said that the judges scored, we got 50-45, 49-46, Jamal Hill's like he's surprised. Like, come on, man. Like, dude, fucking, hey, hats off to your opponent. We said it before the fight. Khalil Rountree improves every fight. Jamal Hill isn't getting any better. Whether he has to train gyms or train camps, or maybe he just has to train a different style. You can't come out before the fight, I'm changing it to an MMA fight instead of a boxing match. You didn't have any takedown attempts. You didn't even threaten the takedown.
Can I play devil's advocate here? Because I'd love to know your answer on this. Is it possible that Jamal Hill didn't have any takedown attempts because his legs were so compromised?
Late in the fight for sure. But I tell you what, like, once you start getting kicked in the leg, you need to make it a point to, I only have a little bit of damage that I can withstand, and I need to get a takedown. He didn't have a takedown in the first round, the first minute, the second round, third. There's 0 takedown attempts through the whole. And when you find yourself at such a striking disadvantage, because I feel that Khalil looks so much better than Jamal.
So good.
You need to change, man. Hey, this ain't working anymore. We need to do something else. And he never got to that point, and it showed a lot of immaturity, in my opinion.
Okay, we got a couple of comments, and I think it would be great to get your response here. So Big Ankh first says Hill has been riddled with injuries and can't catch a break. That may be what's stifling his training and his forward progression, as you mentioned. So that is something to take into consideration. Western has a really good point. Let's hear your thoughts, Justin. I feel like no one is talking about Khalil because Jamal looked like a tree standing there waiting to be chopped down. Agree or disagree?
100%. Yeah, we've already talked about it. Absolutely. He just chopped him down, and there's so much power, and you're absolutely right. He might have been compromised early on in the fight and realized, like, look, I can't even shoot now.
Now, Tehran says, and this is what a lot of people are saying, holy smokes, I think this would be awesome. No, not this comment. My bad. Where's Tehran's comment? I clicked on the wrong thing. Khalil Rountree versus Yuri should be next. This is what everybody's been saying.
I already talked about it. Talk to me. Remember, I made the video yesterday about it.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so can you give us your thoughts again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a great matchup. Yuri's coming off a 2-fight losing streak. Jamal's on a 3-fight losing streak, guys. These are 2 contenders. This is the only fight to make, unless they're sick of Jamal Hill and they want to feed him to somebody like Dominic Reyes. Because remember, Dominic was on a 4-fight losing streak.
You mean Khalil to Dominic Reyes or
I'm talking Jamal Hill.
Oh, you're talking. You want okay?
Yeah, Jamal Hill. I'm sorry, I answered the question wrong. I don't want Khalil Rountree versus Yuri. I want Jamal Hill versus Yuri.
Well, you want Jamal Hill versus Yuri?
Yes.
Okay, interesting.
So if we look, I did. Unless I'm looking up right now. Hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go on to your point. Let me look.
No, hold on. Let me actually double check the rankings myself. So you don't want, because most people I've been hearing have been talking. I feel like Khalil versus Yuri would be a very interesting matchup. And who did Yuri just beat? No, Yuri just beat Jamal Hill. He just beat Jamal Hill. Hold on one second.
Oh, no. I got the wrong guy. You're right. He's 2-2 in his last 4. I want him to fight Alexander Rakic.
Jamal Hill. You want Jamal Hill? Okay, yeah. Rakic against Jamal Hill.
I got to miss him. The Rountree and Yuri fights, I think this is a good fight, but again, I think Rountree rolls him, man. I think he rolls him.
Really?
Yeah, I think Yuri gets hit a little too much. He stands there, like he did in front of Alex. I think Rountree's going to chop him down and knock him out.
But remember when he fought Jamal in the last fight, he looked like he improved so much. He was doing like a lot of head movement, which he hasn't historically done. Yes, he still stands up a little bit, maybe too straight for your comfort, but he was integrating in some head movement. He was really creative with the strikes. I mean, yeah, you might.
I'd have to rewatch the fight to give a better take on it. But the last time I saw Yuri fight, or the last notable time probably is when he fought Alex Pereira, and I thought he just stood there and he looked like, and Alex was just turning off on him. I felt Jamal Hill did that with Khalil.
Yeah, so no, I think Yuri has progressed. I think it would be interesting, and I think it'd be a fun fight for sure. Would Khalil, with his expert Muay Thai striking abilities, would he smoke Yuri? Maybe. But I think it's interesting, and I think it's a fascinating fight. And the cool thing, once again, whoever wins may be up and ready for a title shot against Big Ankh, and both guys are becoming. No, what do you think? You disagree?
Well, I mean, okay, you're 3-2 in your last 5. I don't think that warrants a title shot.
But who else is going to be there? Okay, let's look at the rankings, right? We got Alex Pereira. He's going to fight Magomed Ankalaev next. Yuri's number 2. Carlos Ulberg. It could be Carlos Ulberg.
Yeah, Carlos Ulberg, of course. 1, 2, 3. He's on a 7-fight win streak.
It could be Carlos Ulberg. And Carlos Ulberg has got a really fun fight style. I don't know what they have planned for him next, but I do believe it's going to be Ankalaev. We got a lot of actually interesting movement in the lightweight division. We got Magomed Ankalaev fighting Alex Pereira next, which I'm very excited to see. Maybe we'll get Yuri versus Khalil Rountree next. Maybe Carlos Ulberg will fight somebody as well, or maybe he'll wait in the wings and get the winner of Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. But either way, we've got some interesting movement whenever they schedule, because Khalil's going to need some time. That was a long fight. They went to a decision, I think 50-45. One judge had it 49-46, but pretty much it was on the other two scorecards 50-45, but he's going to probably need some time to rest and recuperate. Let's see when they get that fight made. But the timing could work out perfectly. Whatever goes down in the light heavyweight division, we could see either Yuri back in there or Khalil back in there. Both of those guys have had title shots, just Yuri did actually get the belt before. All right, we're going to do a couple more comments, and then we're going to get back to the next topic, one that I cannot wait to talk about. Okay, Khalil versus Azmat would be a good future fight. True. Oh, I've heard this. Jamal Hill versus Nikita Krylov. Somebody said that could be a big December pay-per-view card. I've heard other people in the comments talk about Nikita Krylov versus Jamal Hill. They need to give Hill a winnable fight. I don't see him beating Reyes. Krylov would be the perfect dance partner. Johnny Monday says, I'm excited to hear both of your opinions. So many people calling Charles. Okay, we're going to talk about Ilia. We got one topic, and then we're going to talk about Ilia versus Charles. We got to give credit to Fiziev. Holy smokes. The one fighter from Azerbaijan who's fighting in his home country in Baku, he not only defeated Bahamondes. Did you watch? I don't know if you watched this fight because it wasn't like the main event. It wasn't like the big fight. So I want to tell you a little bit about it. So Bahamondes, first of all, 6'3", number 1. Number 2, he's good off his back. Number 3, he's fast. And he throws a lot of crazy dynamic strikes, lots of spinning attacks, crazy spinning kicks. And Fiziev said before the fight, obviously, Fiziev is 5'8" versus 6'3". I mean, just imagine, it's a crazy difference. But he said, I'm not worried because Bahamondes doesn't really use his range in fights. He typically likes to fight in the pocket. Now, that being said, he did throw a lot of long spinning kicks. But when you watch Fiziev in there, they're both fast. I think Fiziev maybe had a tiny edge in the speed department. But what blew me away about Fiziev was his footwork and the way he was just watching and critically thinking about his movement. Because, dude, it was like Neo. You got to watch this fight. You got to watch this fight later. It was like Neo in the Matrix. He was predicting everything Bahamondes. This is what I felt like from my perspective, from the untrained eye. But I do spar Muay Thai. I do train Muay Thai. So I have a little bit of an understanding, not like Justin's, but reasonable understanding. But I was just watching Fiziev. I'm like, dude, he's reading everything from a mile away and then just countering beautifully. Plus, he got, I think, 2 or 3 takedowns in the fight. So he's getting more dynamic. I think it was his best grappling fight of all time. I'm just blown away by Fiziev, and I can't believe what I saw. Can't wait to see where he's in the rankings after this on Tuesday. But Justin, just to turn it over to you, I know you're, I believe 5'8" or 5'7", right around the same height as Fiziev in the same division. What does that tell you that a fighter at 5'8", fighting somebody who's 6'3", I've never even heard of a lightweight be 6'3", fighting a 6'3" fighter, super dynamic, super fast. What does that tell you about Fiziev in his skill level to go out and dominate 30-27, dominate somebody like that?
It's not even his skill level. Let's just talk about his footwork for one, because if you don't have the range in your arms and your legs to reach, you have to have incredible footwork. And that's what Fiziev does. And just like we talked about before, like, Rountree, every time Fiziev fights, he looks improved. And look at how good his wrestling looked. You talk about the takedown attempts. You talk about the takedowns. Like, he's not a striker. He's not a wrestler. This guy is an MMA fighter. Whether they keep it on the feet, whether he gets his takedowns, which he's improving on, obviously. I mean, this guy is going to be a force to reckon with.
And he shot multiple takedowns, and he got them. He got all of them. Now, granted, I don't know how good Bahamondes' takedown defense or wrestling in general is. I know he's skilled in jiu-jitsu, and he landed a ton of elbows from bottom in the third round. Holy smokes. Like, dude, that fight was sick, dude. It was so good, so underrated. I feel so bad for both of those guys that they fought right before Jon Jones's retirement was announced, because nobody's talking about it. But man, Fiziev, after going out there and losing to Justin Gaethje, but then getting this incredible victory over an unranked guy, doing his thing and giving somebody a shot, but showing, yo, I'm 32. I'm still in the mix. I'm in my prime, in fact, because as you mentioned, he's getting better. It got me super excited. I cannot wait to see Fiziev fight again. By the way, guys, if you're on the stream right now and you're enjoying the show, please give us a like. Every bit of engagement helps us grow tremendously. We really, really appreciate it. As I mentioned many times, we're having a blast with the show and with this channel. Let me read through a couple comments. MGal4 Productions is back in the mix. What's up, MGal4 Productions? As with the quote, not this one. Nazim and Moda had a fight of the year, but he said Jon Jones is the greatest of all time. Let's throw that in there. A lot of people are disagreeing with you, MGal4 Productions, today, but not Ilia Topuria and not a lot of other fighters. We won't turn it over to Justin on that to get his take here. We got Andrew Nance. Let's effing go. Let's go. Big Onk. Oh, what do you think about this matchup?
I mean, it's a great matchup, and striker's delight. I don't think Fiziev is going to try to take Hooker down too much. I think he's going to outclass him to show that. He might maybe early on, but I think he's really going to want to outclass him. Dan Hooker, like on the feet, just to show how good of a striker he really is. I can see him mixing in his wrestling and his grappling early on to keep Hooker off his feet. But I think that Fiziev would be looking for a knockout in this fight.
Dude, Big Onk said it exactly like I said it. Fiziev dodged so many spinning kicks like the Matrix. Dude, you got to go back and watch this fight. Literally, I was thinking the entire time, I'm like, dude, he's Neo from the Matrix. Everything just barely just getting out of the way for all of these crazy spinning back. I'm like, how is he doing this? And it had to have been just fight IQ, because he was seeing the strikes before they were coming. Some tell or something. I don't know. How do you do that as a fighter? Is it because he watched a lot of tape? Is it he's just that good? Is it quickness? What is it?
Sometimes, honestly, you just go into the zone, man, and you move and you don't really know why. And it's called, you go into a flow state.
Yeah.
And you've heard fighters talk about it before, and there's no really rhyme or reason. I've been there, man. It's like, man, it's such a cool thing, because you're not really thinking, you're just going. Like when I fought Troy Lamson, I just remember, like, I remember one piece, my hands were down at my waist. I slip right, I slip left, and roll a big hook and then block the kick. I put my hands back down. I just remember going, let's go, motherfucker, let's go. Like screaming in his face with my hands down. He couldn't hit me. And it wasn't, I don't know why, man. He was a long, lengthy striker, had great wrestling. And I just remember walking at him with my hands down, and he just couldn't put anything together. And you get in these weird states that you can't, like, and then after the fight, you go back to being human. So it's almost like you're superhuman for a short length of time. And those guys that can find that state, and I found it a couple times through my career. And I tell you what, it's just, you're on autopilot. You don't really know what's going. Whoop, 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 whoop. And and then other time, and that's the great thing about that state is if you're going to get to the level of the UFC or the level I got to, you have to be able to find that state sometimes. Now, when you have guys that go on these long win streaks, they find, like Demetrius Johnson, I've always felt every time he fought, he was in that flow state. Head movement, takedowns, feints, transitioning. When he picked that guy up and slammed him and transitioned to an armbar, like, that's not stuff you practice. He didn't practice that move. Maybe he did, I don't know. But I've never seen anybody in the history of all the training in practice hit that move.
Right.
Until Demetrius Johnson did it in a live go. So like he's in a flow state. Like, how do you react like that? And that's what really separates good fighters and the great fighters is they can find this state all the time than just randomly like I did.
Dang, that's crazy. Yeah, it's almost like he's channeling something supernatural. It's just going through him. We have another comment from Western. He says, Fiziev saw every shot coming. That's what I'm saying. If you guys watch the fight, it blew me away. I'm Gal for Productions. Fiziev has the best distance control in the UFC. I don't know how you can disagree with that. I mean, I think it would be amazing. Now, after we saw Fiziev do that to such a tall fighter, let's get him in there against Dan Hooker. Whoever said that, I love that. Is Dan Hooker going to like it? Probably not, because Fiziev, what, is he going to move up to like 10th or 9th? I don't think I imagine Dan Hooker wants somebody ranked higher, but from the fan perspective, holy smokes, that would be so good. MGAL4 Productions agrees. Fiziev, Hooker next. Andrew Nance giving us props. He says 2 goats. Let's effing go, boys. I think he's talking about us anyways. And MGAL4 Productions also says, flow is real, 100%. All right, now the moment you've all been waiting for. I know you guys have been waiting for us to talk about this. I only put it so low down because we've talked about Ilia versus Charles, I think, a couple times already, just preemptively. But let's get into it now. Before we even get into the matchup of Ilia versus Oliveira, and I know this is looking ahead because he's not even a double champ yet, but Ilia says he wants to be triple champ. And when asked, wow, you really think you can do it? And he says, why not? Why not? Why can't I do it? I've already done all the things that I've done, which people didn't believe. They didn't think I could knock out Volkanovski, and they didn't think I could knock out Max Holloway, and nobody thought I could do it back-to-back, but I did it back-to-back. So why not? Why can't I move up? On top of that, I think he said something like when he was fighting at featherweight that the weight cut was such hell that he was going into the cage at like 170 or 175 at featherweight, like something insane. So, Justin, let me turn it over to you with what I've told you so far in terms of his weight, with what we've seen from Ilia thus far. Is this feasible, do you think, for him to go up and actually be competitive in the welterweight division?
Let's see him competitive at the lightweight division. I think he's getting way ahead of himself. He has such a tall task in front of him that it's going to be insane. And if he goes up there and beats Charles Oliveira and doesn't defend his belt, he's going to be criticized for going up and then going to another weight. So I just think there's so many unanswered questions right now with Ilia Topuria. Let's see how he does with Charles Oliveira before we start talking about Islam or JDM or even Bilal Muhammad. Like this, I appreciate his enthusiasm. I appreciate his optimism, but let's pump our brakes here. Let's see how we do it lightweight before we start, because those guys are big men. Like when I fought I was a small lightweight. I'm 5'7". I walk around about 180 pounds. And man, like when I stand next to guys like Kevin Lee, like he's taller than me. He has bigger legs than me, has bigger arms than me, bigger shoulders than me. And that's the weight class I fought at. And I went down to featherweight, and I was like a rather big featherweight. But at 170, I mean, every guy is over 6 feet tall. Every guy is over 6 feet tall. Every guy is going to be bigger than him. Let's pump our brakes, Ilia. Again, reiterate, I appreciate your optimism, but let's see how we compete at lightweight first.
Well, the thing about Ilia too is he's on the shorter side already. Like I think he's 5'7" or 5'8". So to go, like, imagine him against JDM, like that doesn't even seem fair. It seems like, what's that thing? Goliath versus whatever,
David and Goliath.
David and Goliath. It seems like David and Goliath. It seems like such a mismatch. But hey, I love the self-belief. Now, you said he's getting way ahead of himself. We got to pump the brakes. Perfect transition into this fight. Let's talk Ilia versus Oliveira. We've talked a lot about this already. One thing that Ilia has been saying a lot in interviews is that he says he's going to knock him out. And the reason why is he said, look, one of the things that's difficult for me in fights is people don't want to come forward. They're hesitant to come forward on me because they know about my boxing, my footwork, and my speed. But he's like, the beautiful thing about Charles is he's a forward fighter. He puts on forward pressure, which we saw against Michael Chandler. We've seen many times, and that is true. And a lot of times he'll utilize his jiu-jitsu threat in case he does get stunned or knocked down. He'll kind of lay on his back, and he knows that most people don't want to engage with him except for Islam. But Justin, what do you think about Ilia's take that, hey, because of the way that Charles Oliveira fights, that's going to play into his advantage and allow him to get a knockout early? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Charles Oliveira, in my opinion, has taken a lot of damage through the years. I think this is a great matchup for Ilia Topuria because I don't think Charles is going to be able to take him down, at least early in the fight. Charles, he takes those damaging shots where he gets dropped and he almost pulls guard and he finds success there. What do you think Ilia is going to do? Is he going to gauge I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about this fight. I'm really excited about this fight, but there's too many unanswered questions with Ilia, going up to lightweight. And I don't really like to, I don't know, man. I see this as a great matchup for Ilia because he is going to hit Charles, but is he going to engage or is he going to wave him up? That's where I think the fight will be determined. If he engages in Charles and lets him recover, I don't know, man. This is a tough fight for me to even talk about because when I see these guys stand up and square up next to each other, like Charles Oliveira is 5'10", Ilia is 5'7", he looks so much bigger and his arms look so much longer. Man, this is an exciting fight, and this is one that I don't plan to miss.
If the odds were 50-50, who would you put money on?
Oh my gosh.
On your head right now.
My heart says Charles Oliveira, but the UFC narratives needs Ilia to win because it creates a bigger payday. Charles Oliveira, former champion, he got submitted. If Ilia goes out there and gets beat by Charles Oliveira, he loses all the credibility. He's not going up to welterweight, becoming a 3-belt champ. He's not fighting Islam anymore. All those paydays and all those pay-per-views are gone now. And the UFC is going to lose a lot of money. Do I think the UFC controls who wins? Absolutely not. But I do feel the UFC puts certain guys like Ilia Topuria in advantageous positions to secure these long-term pay-per-views.
That's a fair point. Now, I'll give you my thoughts. And I was picking Charles Oliveira initially, and I like Charles Oliveira. Probably part of that was me picking with my heart. But the more I listen to Ilia's interviews, I want Ilia to win now. But I actually think if you force me, if the odds were 50-50 and I had to put money on somebody, I would pick Ilia. I think there's a couple of reasons. I think his confidence is super high. I think his power is going to translate really well to lightweight. He's talked about how he was almost killing himself during the weight cut. So I think he's a natural 155er. He's fought at lightweight before, and he had a tough fight at lightweight, but he still won. I think that Ilia, with his confidence, with his youth, with his team, with all the momentum behind him, I think he's going to get it done. And on top of that, you've talked about the psychological battle of like being at the top and then having to get back up there and how tremendously more difficult that is to reclaim the belt versus getting it the first time. So because of now that being said, Charles Oliveira is dialed in. He's a workhorse. I think he's not like these other guys. Like we see Conor partying in Ibiza and getting into fist fights at nightclubs. I don't think Charles Oliveira is anywhere in that realm, in that mindset. I think he's focused and dialed in and training at his best. But if I were to lean one way, and this is not with any foresight in terms of a detailed breakdown of their fight styles and how they match up, but just from the things that I just stated, I will pick Ilia Topuria.
I'm picking Ilia too. I'm with you. Everything you said, I think, is spot on, and I agree with you. I mean, I want Charles to win. I just think he's so great for the sport, and he's such a great role model for fighters. I'm not saying Ilia Topuria isn't, but he's not Charles Oliveira, man, and I have so much respect for him. And again, starting his career off shaky, becoming a champion, defending it a couple times, and then unfortunately, losing to Islam. But man, I want him to win just because he's a guy that when I look at these young fighters coming up, it's like that's somebody you want to be like. And I'm not saying Ilia is not there. Ilia is not a bad guy by any means, but he's not Charles Oliveira.
Now we got a couple comments. Tehran, very interesting. He says, I truly do believe that Bronx is going to surprise a lot of people this Saturday because, man, he's being counted out badly.
I hope so, man.
Surprise in what way? Surprise in terms of providing a more competitive fight than people think, or surprised by winning? Let us know what you mean by that, Tehran, specifically. And Topuria is going to knock him out, is what MGAL4 Production says. Tehran also says, I saw Oliveira training for Topuria. He was slipping punches fairly well. Hopefully he can do that in the actual fight. He's really looking sharp. Okay, very cool. Izzy Slots, your boy, comes in with, I think Ilia is the best ever. Will be better than Jones. Izzy Slots is a trainer, right, at Extreme Couture.
He is one of the head coaches at Extreme Couture. Yeah, he's my coach. He's my manager. I'm gonna. Hey, let's start. Hey, I'm starting to get the itch. Izzy Slots, come on, man. I haven't been punched in the face in a while. Find me a fight.
That's what I meant by. Sorry, I hope I didn't mean say trainer when I should have said coach, but that's what I meant. He's a coach at Extreme Couture, so he knows the game. If he says Ilia is the best, that's coming from a seasoned eye, and he believes Ilia is going to get a first, second round KO and will make it look easy. Wow, really?
And Roman will put his mouth where his money where his mouth is too.
Oh snap! I mean, yeah, I guess he could. Why not? He got for a second round KO against Volkanovski, and Volkanovski is a pure legend. So we shall see. Tehran does, in fact, believe Oliveira will win. And Johnny Monday, one more comment, and then we're going to go to our final topic, a fun topic. Charles has got this one, boys. Oh, Johnny Monday's picking Oliveira. All right, we shall see what goes down. All right, final topic. Nate Diaz. I read an article this morning. I didn't see a video on it yet, but I read an article this morning. Nate Diaz is going to fight for the BKFC, or is in talks with the BKFC. Not going to fight for them for sure yet. Let's not say that, but he's in talks with BKFC. As somebody who just did a bare knuckle boxing match, Nate Diaz, you know his striking capabilities, you know his boxing technique. He did fight Jake Paul and lose, but he apparently is thinking about bare knuckle. How do you think Nate Diaz would do in BKFC?
I think he'd do great. I think he has a great style for it. Unfortunately, I think his style is really great for it because you don't need to hit hard. You just need to hit it with a lot of volume. See, I took the wrong approach. Like, I'm a power puncher. I'm a one-shot knockout guy, which I thought was going to play really well when I did my bare knuckle fight. But unfortunately for me, I'm loading on all my shots, and every time I hit him, I was hurting my hands so much. And Nate Diaz, on the other hand, is that long, striking, almost like a lesser version of Max Holloway. He punches guys a lot of times, not with 100% power, but he's a volume puncher, which in turn can cut his opponents up. In turn, with bare knuckles, knock guys out so much easier. With that being said, I think he's taken too much damage through the years, and I think his fights are going to get stopped because of how much he bleeds.
That would be such a shame. Just for fun, if we could imagine a great matchup, I hope it's not like, well, maybe, who knows? Maybe it could be Conor. I don't know. One day, if Conor's sunset clause kicks in January, if we can get out from under this potential legal trouble in Ibiza or whatever the heck else has been going on. But do you think they're teeing that up? And would that be the matchup? Or is there any other matchup that you think would be cool for Nate Diaz in his debut BKFC fight?
I think that they're going to give him a cupcake to get a little momentum behind it. But if they just brought him against Conor McGregor, how awesome would that be?
My God.
There's no chance of that happening.
Why? Why
I
do you
don't
think
know,
so?
man. Just Conor McGregor is probably going to get sued again here by this guy he just knocked out in the club. He's going to be going through how's he going to prepare, man? He has all ththese legal issues he's dealing with. He's still obviously partying. He's running for president. He's an actor. I mean, this guy's everywhere. He's doing everything. You think he has time to train? No, of course not. With that being said, he might look at bare knuckle as being a lesser of a sport, and he might not feel he has to train as hard. So if he gets desperate, I mean, I know you talk about how you think that he's running out of money, and he might be getting desperate here, and that's very all well possibility. With enough money, I mean, maybe he could talk himself into it, because I tell you what, in my bare knuckle fight, it wasn't like training for an MMA fight. It was very, very easy, and I don't recall being tired at all in the fight compared to MMA, where I'll be hunched over because the anaerobic of that lactic acid buildup. You don't have that as much in bare knuckles, so maybe he'll look at it like that and not think he has to train as hard.
Well, we shall see. Also, Conor has huge hands. Everybody talks about he's got like these massive fists, and you said that can be a genetic advantage. You look like somebody like Mike Perry or whatnot in BKFC. So maybe Conor's just going to be a freak athlete in BKFC. That would be so dope.
Speaking of BKFC, I just saw something incredible, and if you get lucky, you can find it too online. But I saw it live; it was so awesome. So I'm coaching at the gym the other day, and Mike Perry walks in, and every time Mike sees me, we don't go out of the way, but yeah, Extreme Couture. Cool. And he walks in, he gives, because he's from Michigan as well.
Right.
We've talked about it before, and I was just like, hey man, I did a bare knuckle fight, dude. And I just want to tell you, man, how much more respect I have, because I have an unlimited amount of respect for him, but how much more I have. No, thanks a lot. I walk around the corner. I can't remember the exact time, but him and Sean Strickland were fucking going at it.
Oh, I've seen it.
Oh my God.
I've seen the footage.
I got to watch it live.
Oh man, dude, that's crazy.
What a freaking gangster. And I tell you what, Sean looked tired, man. Mike was going nuts on him. And I mean, Sean won the exchanges, but what an incredible thing to witness. And we're just happen to be talking about BKFC, but to see, arguably, in my professional opinion, Mike Perry is the greatest bare knuckle fighter of all time. And it's going to be really tough for someone to take that throne away from him. And I got to watch him live with Sean Strickland.
That's crazy. No, yeah, I saw the footage, but maybe we only saw parts of it, so you probably got to see the whole thing. But that's crazy. Yeah, Mike, I saw him. He's just too tough. He just keeps coming forward. He's an animal.
Good, man.
And yeah, it's probably a combination of the skill and the mentality and the mindset and the toughness and all those different things. So that's dope that you got to see that live. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up for today's show. On the heels of this major announcement, we got a bunch more content coming out. Make sure to check out some of the videos we dropped recently. Justin did a great video about Kevin Lee getting knocked out in the PFL. You guys should check that out, as Justin has
brutally knocked out.
Yeah. Yeah, I need to go back and watch the actual. I saw like freeze frames
face
of it.
Plant, bro. Face plant.
Okay, well, yeah, that's a bummer, but I guess it is what it is. And I think, a lot of people were predicting that. So unfortunately, I don't know. I guess that's how it goes sometimes. But check out that
video, man. I think it's karma
for trying to knee you in the face multiple times.
Not just me, just everybody, man. He's just. And I'll tell you what, guys. I seem like I talk a lot of shit about Kevin. I don't talk a lot of shit about him. I get along with Kevin, man. So we've had our issues in the training room before, but he's not a bad guy. He's not a malice guy. Like, he's always been really nice to me, really respectful to me, excluding when we spar.
Oh, by the way, Tehran said he saw your video. Let me just show you this real quick. He said, I saw the video Justin did about Kevin Lee. Very good. So he liked it. Awesome. Johnny says, thanks for another one. Justin, who's there, you guys are welcome. And Western says, thanks, guys. You guys are welcome. Thank you as always. You guys make the show. So we really, we can't tell you how much we appreciate the fact that you show up and appreciate it, but also chat, put comments in the chat and whatnot and be a part of the conversation. So thank you so much. You guys are part of the show as well. And we really appreciate it. We will see you on Friday with the pre-show show right before UFC 317. Let's go. A lot of great fights on this card. We'll see you guys at 1:30 p.m. PST on Friday. Thank you so much for joining. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.